I've spent the last 6 years working on a cookbook inspired by the world's oldest recipes written on clay tablets 4,000 years ago. The historical manuscript has been fact-checked by archaeologists and historians, and the recipes will be accompanied by 100 pages of beautiful food photography. But as I'm nearing the completion of the book, I'm traveling to Italy to meet some of the world's best art book printers and to show you how art books are made. So we just arrived in Milano, northern Italy. We're going to spend 4 days here, and I'm really excited to take you with me on this journey. Book printing has a long tradition in Italy. Many Italian printers were established well over a century ago, and generations later, most are still run by the founding families. The first step in making a book is printing large sheets of paper. This can be automated for most books, but not for Table of Gods or other art books where color accuracy is crucial. There are different types of inks, but they're all dynamic. For example, a slight change in temperature can affect how the colors appear on paper. That's why we'll have a press operator during the entire process of printing Table of Gods, so we can monitor the color accuracy as the sheets are printed. Once the sheets have been printed and everything looks good, they're sent to the bindery where they're folded, sorted, and stacked. The next step in producing high-quality books is sewing. This is very different from paperbacks that are just glued to the spine. The quality and thickness of the paper decide how many pages can be sewn into each section. All sections are then sewn together to form the book block, to which the end papers are attached before a reinforcement strip is glued onto the spine. The black end papers here are what ultimately holds the book block together once it's cased in and glued to the cover. But before that can be done, the book block's 3 edges must be trimmed, because if you remember, the large printed sheet has only been folded, sorted, and stacked, and then sewn together in sections. And I feel I need to show you what I mean here, because this can get confusing. Let's pretend this A4 is the large printing sheet from the factory. Depending on the size of the interior pages, you get a certain amount of pages per sheet. But let's assume that the format of our book allows 2 pages vertically and then 4 horizontally. That means 8 pages on the front side of this sheet, but since all sheets are printed on the back as well, this sheet would actually give us 8 pages times 2, so totaling 16 pages. So when a sheet is folded, it looks something like this. This isn't how the machine actually folds it, but the end result is similar. And the point here is, you can't flip through the pages until the sides are trimmed. You see? It starts to look like a book. Once the books have been trimmed, they're sent to the final step of the bookmaking process, the hardcover. For Table of Gods, there's actually one additional step. The trimmed book blocks are sent to another factory where the edges are colored. If you look at the Table of Gods cover, you'll see that the edges aren't white. They're in the same clayish tone as the cover. That's done by manually spraying the 3 edges of the book blocks before they're sent back to the bindery where the end papers are glued to the hardcover, which is usually the final step of making a book. But there's actually one step before that we haven't talked about, and that's a debossing with the brass die. If you take a look at the Table of Gods cover again, you see that the cuneiform signs are debossed or pressed down. This can only be achieved with a brass die and pressure. But since none of the factories were producing special covers during our visit, I couldn't show how that's done. But for a book like Table of Gods, there's actually one more step to consider after the book has been manufactured, and that's how to package it. After spending years researching, writing, cooking, and creating what I think is a beautiful book, it can't be shipped like a bag of potatoes. So we're planning to either produce a book box or package the book in some other way that makes the unboxing experience more exciting than opening a brand new product from Apple. I know I just set the bar high, but I don't mind the pressure. This trip to Italy definitely exceeded my expectations. So I've read about the printing process, I know all the steps, because I've been working on this for like 6 years. But seeing it in reality, having the possibility to go through an entire factory process with like a technical engineer is just on a whole different level. I just came away with so much respect for this art. I thought it was much more, just push the button and then a book comes out. That's definitely not the case. You can print one book with 5 printers and you will have 5 different results because they're all very different. So you need to know what you want to achieve and then pick the printer based on that. I have some very strong candidates, but I think the best way to find out is actually to work with them, to start making tests, because we have like 10 different tests we want to make. Everything from the interior paper, the cover paper, the edges, the book box, the shipping box. So there's so many things to test. Doing this process with several printers, of course, adds cost, but it also gives you a much better idea of how they are. If you haven't already, join the waitlist at tableofgods.com/YT. I send a progress email by the end of every month. So I guess that's the best way to follow along. Okay, thank you, Todi Basima. Talk to you soon.